Well, hey everybody. It is Wes Hagen, and I want to welcome everybody in the Instagram world to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. And it looks like we just went live on Facebook as well. So, welcome everybody. It is the third day of August in the wonderful, glorious, and terrible year of 2020. And tonight we've got a really, really great show. I want to make sure that you guys know exactly what's going on this week. It's a very, very exciting week here on Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. Tonight we are basically breaking out a brand new wine you have never seen, and we have never, probably unless you've been to the tasting room in the last few months, maybe last few weeks, and that is the first sparkling wine ever released under the Wilkes label. And we'll tell you all about that. We're going to be doing a tasting in the first 15 minutes of the show, and then we're going to reset. The dogs are going to get fed, and then we are going to basically fire this up again, and I'm going to finish a program that I started last week on the influence of farming on wine, and how when we farm wine grapes, how the different things we do to farm these wine grapes really affects the flavor. So I want to give you the benefit of the doubt and the benefit of my experience in farming grapes for 25 years to give you a sense of how those wines run. But right now, I'm really excited because I have not tasted this wine in a really long time. We're going to taste the 2016 Blanc de Blanc Method de Champenois, which I'll explain exactly what that means. But it is a sparkling wine that was made and originally bottled. Oh wait, I said sparkling wine, and all of a sudden someone shows up on the other side. You got to put your hand in a little further than that. My self-avowed little sparkling lover over there. Sometimes I say it in a less kind way, but we're on the internet, and I want to make sure I keep it clean and sexy. It was. I want to make sure I give this the correct. It was Clovis Tettinger, who said that when you properly open a bottle of Method de Champenois sparkling wine, it should sound like a pistol being fired through a silencer. So what I like to do is hold the cork and turn the bottle. And then just when you start feeling right at the top, ooh, just a little pop. That was pretty close. That was
definitely.
Sounded like someone got pew-pewed.
I've watched enough true crime.
Was that an accurate assessment?
That was accurate on a movie stage sound. Yes.
Oh, is there anything more beautiful than a glass of sparkling wine?
Honey.
You got it. I hope you enjoy that. 2016 J. Wilkes Blanc de Blanc. So this is a very, very crafty wine, and a wine that you're going to be paying the same price you would for a nice non-vintage bottle of champagne. So it's got to be good, and it's got to be right, which means in Santa Barbara County, who do we go to? None other than Flying Goat, Goat Bubbles, and Mr. Norm Yost. And if you know anything about Santa Barbara wine, and you know that Norm was pretty much the first guy that was making fantastic bubbles in the valley. And he was doing it by hand 100%. I mean, yes, he had a press. Yes, he had a destemmer. Yes, he had help. But we're talking about a wine that was 100% hand disgorged, 100% hand riddled. It's pretty amazing what Norm can actually do. Oh, lovely. Phil is probably talking about a sparkling Albarino, bone-dry green apples and grapefruit. One thing that Chanda and I were talking about last night, too, is that we aren't really engaging quite as much with folks on the show, because I'm trying to get the shows kind of done, and we're kind of going back and forth. She thinks I should be probably engaging more, and I totally agree with her. So we're going to be throwing together, we're still playing with the show, still having fun with it, so I'm going to be engaging just a little bit more, talking a little bit more about this stuff. And then this Friday, so Wednesday, as you guys know, we're having Karen McNeil on. I mean, she wrote the Wine Bible. She has an Emmy. She has a James Beard Award. One of 4 women ever in the planet Earth that have won both an Emmy and a James Beard. And if you wonder who those other 3 are, I'll tell you one's Julia Child, but find out the other 2 on Friday when I start talking about it. How do you like the sparkling? Bubbles. So when we never call California sparkling wine champagne, even if it was grandfathered in and it can still be called California champagne. The irony is, if you ever see the word champagne on a bottle of California wine, it's going to be awful, because it's going to be really, really cheap, and basically from a huge production company that was making sparkling wine. There's only 2 or 3 companies that still can use the term California champagne, and I've never had a bottle of what is called California champagne that was of any craft. Now this smells like champagne. It's got a yeasty, kind of a brioche odor. It's got this really, really nice, kind of like toasted apple pie, got a little crust. It really does absolutely smell. A little bit of pear, a little bit of baking spice. Oh man, that just smells absolutely delicious. I like to drink sparkling wine. A lot of people like to use the big bowls. I like to use sort of a moderate, something in between. I think this is either a Sauvignon Blanc or a Sangiovese glass. It's amazing that, I put sparkling wine and the wine just doesn't jump out saying, that's not a sparkling wine glass. No, but I really like about this style of glass. Thank you for stopping in, Chanda. Really appreciate it. If you need some more sparkling wine, you know where I am. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about this wine. I'm going to actually taste it. In evaluating sparkling wine, if I was doing this to blend it, I would probably back out and make this wine far less cold than it is now. Tasting sparkling wine base at or about sort of ambient room temperature, especially in a cellar, maybe 65 degrees seems to make perfect sense to me. If we were blending it to evaluate it, I might put a little bit of a chill on it because I know sparkling wine is served and should be served colder than any other wine. So normally we're looking at, mid 60s to serve white wine. We don't want it too cold. We want to let the wine really show itself. And remember, the more you want to taste that wine, the less cold you want it to be, except with champagne. But one thing I love about sparkling wine and champagne is to start it very cold in the glass. And as each glass warms up a little bit before I finish that glass, if I'm drinking moderately, the wine changes. And the wines will always change as they absorb air, as they warm up a little bit. We're going to start really seeing what's happening in these wines. So how's sparkling wine produced? Well, we're picking the grapes significantly less ripe than we would be picking them if we were making still wine. So if we were making still wine, we'd be picking these grapes probably in September or October for Chardonnay, probably October, and we'd be picking at about 23 to 25% total sugar in the grapes. That's 23 to 25 bricks. So 23 to 25 bricks will mean that the actual weight of the fermentable disaccharide sugar within the berries of those grapes is about 25%. And that'll give us somewhere in the area of about 15% alcohol. 25 bricks gives us about 15% alcohol. So you're looking somewhere around a 0.6 conversion factor from percentage of sugar in the grapes to final alcohol in the wine. That being said, we are picking sparkling wine significantly less ripe with higher acidity. So as grapes begin to ripen, sugars go up, acid goes down. So 25 bricks, and so right here, we're going to get maybe 21 bricks, and the acid is still going to be 8 or 9 grams, maybe 3.0, 3.1 pH. Enough acid to strip the cheek lining off a white Zin drinker in 10 seconds or less. This is going to be a sort of an Alsatian Riesling level of acidity. This is going to be a ripping, gorgeous level of absolutely beautiful, bright acidity, because acidity is the language. Brightness, elegance, verve, all of these things are part and parcel to what sparkling wine is and how it tastes. So because we're picking early for lower alcohol, because we're picking early for higher acidity, we're going to basically start farming it a little bit different. The best sparkling wines in the world are farmed for sparkling wine. It's not like, oh, well, we have too much fruit, let's make some sparkling. No, you should be pruning for sparkling wine. You can leave a little extra wood out because it doesn't matter. You can get the fruit ripe even with a slightly elevated crop. In fact, that slightly higher amount of crop on each vine will actually slow down the ripening process. Let the grapes have a little more hang time and might actually improve. This is something you never hear from a wine marketer, that higher yield can make better wine, and certainly it can. If you have half a ton per acre and you get a really huge heat spike, boom, man, that fruit's going to go through the roof and you're going to basically get so much ripeness so quick. Now, if you have the same heat spike and you've got 3 tons hanging out there, you're going to actually be able to buffer that heat through that larger crop. The vines are going to have probably less leaves per cluster, less leaves per cluster, and as a result, it's going to take a little bit longer for that fruit to ripen up, and that's what you want. You want the hang time and the development of flavor. When I'm farming for sparkling wine back at Clos Pepe, when I also work with Norm Yost at Flying Goat, we would prune for a little higher yield. We would also do a lot earlier of leaf pulling, so the grapes would have a little bit more sun exposure and improvement of quality and flavor, the removing of any vegetal or herbaceous character to the grapes, and get as much sun on them as early as we can, because we're going to be picking them up to a month earlier. So as a result, they can take a little bit more sun on the fruit without burning, because we're not going to leave them all the way through the warmest part. We're going to get them out of the field probably by the end of August, and we normally get our hottest days in September and sometimes also in October. So that's exactly the way that we're going to farm that. Champagne, I don't know if any of you are aware of the Cladstrips, who used to write for the Wall Street Journal, I believe. They wrote a great book called Wine and War. They also wrote a fantastic book about champagne, in which I also learned the first time champagne was ever served in a sparkling format, because champagne tried really hard for a lot of years to produce wines that didn't bubble. In fact, champagne is kind of like a little bit of a jam on the idea of what happens to wine when it's not properly bottled. And it happened again and again and again in the Champagne region, where as they were putting these wines in bottle, they would continue to re-ferment in the bottle and create pressure. The pressure would very commonly explode bottles. It was very dangerous to work in Champagne either before or after the development of sparkling wine, because of the exploding bottles. Up to maybe a quarter of the bottles would explode between when they were bottled and when they were delivered. And you could sometimes actually recognize a cellar worker in Champagne by the horrible disfigurement from all of the exploding bottles that they had to deal. And that's one reason why the widow Clicquot invented a mask. In fact, almost everything attributable to Dom Perignon. Was Dom Perignon blind? Probably not. Did he invent champagne? No. He worked his entire career trying to get the bubbles out of champagne. Did he say, "I taste the stars"? Very, very likely not. That's a dubious claim. Like most things in history, what was attributed to a man was actually mostly accomplished by a woman. And that was the widow Clicquot. And the widow Clicquot, the word for widow in French is veuve. So the veuve Clicquot, the widow Clicquot, she was very careful with her workers. She gave them safety and actual personal protection equipment as one of the first wineries to do that. She also invented one of the most important things. She invented the punt bottle. The punt bottle. So it has a Roman arch at the bottom of almost every champagne bottle except Cristal. Cristal doesn't, and they need like 1.5 inches of pure like Baccarat crystal to justify not using a simple curve, because the curve kept the bottles from exploding. The curves basically kept everything from going completely off the rails. So that was really, really important to the development of champagne. And then the first time champagne was ever served as a sparkling celebratory wine was the coronation of Charlemagne, Charles V, at the Cathedral of Reims in the year 800. In the year 800, champagne was first used as a celebratory vehicle, really, and as a result, it has been a celebratory beverage. Champagne producers are kind of hurting right now because there's not a lot of parties going on right now. Champagne is going to be on sale. There's a lot of undrunk champagne out there, and sparkling wine is probably never a better value. So always look out there, and remember, champagne is not necessarily it's not only for special occasions. Drinking sparkling wine can become the occasion that you want it to be. This wine is just tasting absolutely delicious, and I hope you guys get to smell it and taste it. But Adam and Eric and Bev and Phil and Dom and Dawn, everybody else, I really, really appreciate you guys being here. Very, very important to talk about these things. Oh, and again, remember, Wednesday, 5 o'clock, Karen McNeil. I just finished the questions that I'm going to be putting for her. I'll put the questions up. I sent them to her, so I'll put them up on my Facebook so you can take a look at the questions. Bring something delicious to drink. Look at your wine Bible. If you have any questions about the wine Bible or you need another copy, get it ready. And we're going to be talking to Karen about wine writing, the future of wine. And then on Friday, we're just going to have a cool Q&A hangout session. Chanda and I are just going to get on Zoom and throw it up, probably maybe even throw it up on Instagram and Facebook, and just hang out and chat. We can talk about dogs. We can talk about bunnies. We can talk about wine. We can talk about beer. We can talk about mezcal. We can talk about mead. We can talk about anything we want. So that's going to be fun. Really looking forward to that. And then stay tuned. I'm going to do a quick reset, and then I'm going to be back in 2 minutes, and we're going to be talking all about all about canopy management. We're going to be talking about how grapes are grown and how the different things we do in the vineyard have serious impacts on this. And this really will influence the way that you look, taste, and evaluate wine. I also want to mention that Day Drinking with Wes Hagen is brought to you by the Miller Family Wine Company. And you can go to millerfamilywines.com. Check out also millerfamilywineclub.com. We've got a brand new wine club. It's like a monthly subscription club. It's like $40 a month for 3 amazing $20 bottles of wine, delivered all in under $40. It's a really good deal. Also brought to you by Wilkes, Wines of Character, Wines of Place. I always forget to plug. I'm a little too good at teaching and I'm just not used to putting a tip jar out when I used to teach high school, but maybe I should have. Maybe I would have made enough money to stay in education. So go check out millerfamilywines.com. Check out jwilkes.com. And if you ever have any questions or comments, please reach out to me. I'd love to tell you about any of these wines, and make sure the bubbles are not on the website. They're at the tasting room only. We only did 25 cases of this wine. So, but you could probably call the tasting room. They can probably hook you up. So that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed a little talk on the 2016 J. Wilkes Blanc de Blanc sparkling wine. It's tasting absolutely delicious. I love it's a 16 too, because for it's a $50 bottle of bubbles, and it's got to be great. The issue is if it was an 18, it would not show the level of complexity that it's showing right now. This wine is really starting to show off some secondary and tertiary characteristics. So I'm really, really excited about it. Cool. That's about it. I will be back in 2 minutes, and let's talk about farming. Love it. Thanks, everybody, and keep day drinking. Cheers.